Hello, everyone. My name is Sid Pawar. I'm the Supply Chain Center of Excellence Director at Apili, and today I'm going to demonstrate consensus demand planning using Anaplan. For consensus demand planning or forecasting, it is not an individual sport. It must be collaborative, identify a handful of key people from marketing, sales, operations, and relevant technical departments, and form a working group. This core team will be responsible for developing and managing the forecasting process. It is important to identify and document the key assumptions that are going into the forecast. And finally, it is likely a range of forecast is needed to ensure the worst and best case scenarios are discussed to align within the organization. So let's dive into the Anaplan platform. So up here, you'll notice that I have my consensus kickoff displayed up here. Now, one of the critical things that is important is that I'm going to show you how we can track whether a particular task is completed or not. So in this case, if I have a demand manager that is responsible for consensus planning, they can track the different workflows. In this case, we have a 5-step process. We have statistical forecasting, demand planning, marketing, sales, and customer are the key inputs to consensus forecasting. And so once I kick off this process, you'll notice that I have sales and customer as in progress. Now, if I have the sales team go in and make changes, for example, that we have sales forecast, prior year sales customer forecast, and prior year forecast displayed up here. I can, choose to turn off any of these data fields and focus on certain ones. I can also maximize and minimize these charts as I please. And a very useful tool, very dynamic in that nature. I can also display a walk from my target down to my final forecast for sales. But most importantly, down here, I can also keep a track of my opportunities and risk in terms of sales. Let's say that I decide to include or exclude that in the plan. If I decide to remove this, you'll notice that my table down here has updated that. If I decide to, remove that, once I've made these changes and, I'm satisfied as a sales manager, I can go ahead and hit submit. And this notifies my consensus forecast team that this process has basically been completed. So notice now that the sales team has completed their task, and I can now go ahead as a demand manager, go ahead and send a notification out to, let's say, the customer that I'm working with that we're still waiting on information from, or a liaison team that is working with the customer to say, hey, we need this step to be completed, or I can send out other information to the group that is part of this process that we have completed our consensus forecasting process, and what have you, or if I need to collect any other information within the platform. So no need to use Outlook. The other useful process that is in the final consensus demand review, where we notice that this particular piece is bringing in all the data. Over here, we have forecast error for our product category drivers. In this case, sales is at 20% error, marketing 35%, and then customer at 30%. And so I'm going to give some weighting over here, or the system's going to recommend them. And then once I have that, I can display in a chart format, and then as a table format as well down here, which displays all my information, my baseline statistical forecast, any uplift down or reductions that are displayed in red, uplift is in green. And then the final consensus demand can be a weighted average, which it is in this case, where it's going to take into account everybody's inputs and then weight it depending on factors that I choose. In this case, I'm choosing to use forecast error as a driver to weigh the ones that have lowest error with a higher weight. Now, once I have this information, I can also show the unit forecast, a dollar forecast, any gap to finance, whether it's in units or dollars. And this is a very useful tool from a consensus forecasting standpoint. Now, I can also do some scenario planning. In this case, I can create some consensus demand proposals, which is very important in a large organization where we are looking for executive approval on key decisions. In this case, I'm simplifying this with just showing gap to finance and inventory carrying costs as the two key drivers, decision makers, to decide which plan makes the most sense. If our goal is to reduce the gap to finance, then we will choose a plan that has the lowest gap to finance. And ultimately, we'll look at inventory carrying cost. If our goal is to have the least amount of inventory carrying cost, then we will choose alternate plan 3. But this allows me to bring in different proposals to the executive team and provide options to basically allow the executive team to make a decision on what the consensus team has done. And it's a very critical part of the S&OP process. So with that, I would like to thank you for your time. But more importantly, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us via akili.com, as well as through LinkedIn. I put in my LinkedIn information here, and via email. So I thank you for your time and have a good day.